We see the battle of the Shadow Wave users, shiny Shadow Lapras into my Shadow Malamar, and right off the bat, I am full sending. Does the opponent respect the damage? Welcome back to the channel. I'm sure by now you've seen numerous showcases from other content creators of the newly released Shadow Malamar. However, unlike them, you are not going to see Malamar Tinkaton core, because I'm not a fan of that very boring, bulky Pokemon. Today we're going to be showcasing Malamar as it's supposed to be used in a triple Shadow team, and needless to say the results were pretty good as we was able to hit Legend rank in Season 22 of the Go Battle League. I personally think the go-to core for Malamar is pairing up with a poison type. We all know Dark Poison is a phenomenal combination, and having Malamar that's able to strip shields and having Weezing with that Hail Mary Overheat, I had fantastic success. For anyone that is on that Legend push, I started today at 28-17. You'll know, like I found out, that everyone is hiding behind very bulky Pokemon. The combination of Galarian Weezing and Malamar, both in their Shadow form, is insanely glassy. So we do need to give the team some much needed bulk, and I opted for a Shadow Diggersby on the save switch. It's not too often that I showcase a team that I'd recommend for climbing, but this team is certainly one you can use. Despite having phenomenal success, I don't think I played particularly well. I'm always my own harshest critic, so today we're going to be talking through some things that I could have done better, and you can have even more success than me. With that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And right off the bat, we lead into Jumpluff. As soon as I posted this team, I got a comment saying Jumpluff says hi. I'll be honest, I don't think Jumpluff is actually all that much of an issue for us. Despite the Fairy Winds hitting for super effective, one singular foul plays already rocked the opponent below half health, and we're going to look to soak the energy on Diggersby. Despite Diggersby being a ground type and then being a grass type, hardly any Jumpluff are actually running Energy Ball. I mean, I actually quite like that matchup as the Big Fat Bunny. We managed to bait out Lapras, which is perfect for me, as of course Weezing doesn't want to see this thing whatsoever. Unfortunately, unable to get the attack drop on the Scorching Sands, which is kind of unfortunate. I send back out Malamar. As the opponent dumped their energy, I'm more than happy to shield once. I'm then going to heavily overfarm and look to pick up a knockout with the foul play. We've already seen that Jumpluff is also in foul play range, so if that returns, we will be forcing our shield back. Out comes Blastoise, and we're going to see the first misplay. I don't know why I cannot time against rollout to save my life. The best thing I've found to do, because it looks like the rollout animation is kind of delayed, is count your own quick moves as opposed to look at the animation, which is kind of weird for me as I am always looking at animations. It kind of is what it is. However, despite my horrendous timing, I'm very much in the driver's seat. I've got Weezing with a Protect Shield versus the world. A non-Shadow Hydro Cannon, not all that threatening. I'm more than willing to tank the damage, knowing the opponent's got very little fast move pressure into me. We're going to overfarm, fire off the sludge. Hi Blastoise, bye Blastoise. Jumpluff has nowhere to go, and just like that, we're off to a 1-0 start. Heading into the next battle, we see Malamar into the Snail. Most people that run Malamar would probably bait a foul play here, but I am not that person. I full send the superpower. Get that Snail off my screen. Out comes Sableye. I'm going to fire off this foul play despite being debuffed, and then look to pivot into the Bunny. Even a debuff foul play does put him into Scorching Sands range, and we actually managed to bait out Superior. Superior not going to appreciate the Fire Punch. 2 Fire Punches actually knock out, and my Bunny, very thick, even in its Shadow form, a Frenzy Plant simply won't cut it. You see me stone cold no shield, Frenzy Plant rocks me low, but the Big Fat Bunny still not done. Gonna fire off the Fire Punch, forcing the first Protect Shield of the game. I'm going to send out Galarian Weezing, and it's going to do a pretty good job of absorbing this energy from Superior. Frenzy Plant is resisted. Aerial Ace, just a garbage move. The switch time is up for the opponent. They send out Sableye, and after landing that debuff foul play, I'm more than happy to go straight sludge in this matchup. The opponent farm up to the double foul play. I've got 2 shields. I'm just going to shield both. Unfortunately, we do lose CMP, but this game's simply over. If you watched this channel before and see me use Shadow Sableye, you'll know that mine's a rank 1. I normally lose CMP to Galarian Weezing as it is IV dependent. This opponent clearly has some attack, but regardless, what's the opponent going to do? They're going to be forced to throw on Galarian Weezing, knocking me out, but a couple of sideways going to get us over the line, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow on Shadow Crime. As Yasa would say, this is somewhat of a scuffed matchup. My sideways hitting for super effective, their Fairy Winds also hitting me for super effective. Sludge does quite a lot, whereas my charge moves are resisted. The opponent baits with a brutal swing, which feels bad. I'm going to return fire with the foul play. Foul play forces my shield back, and we look to absorb the energy once again on the Big Fat Bunny. So we're only a few battles in, and you can see how I like to use this team. I look to do two things. I look to absorb as many hits as I physically can onto Diggersby, and I also look to bait out Lapras, as of course Weezy doesn't want to see it. And once again, we managed to do exactly that. Once again, no attack drop does come through, meaning unfortunately Sparkanoria will be removing the bunny from the field of play. Malamar is very dominant into Lapras. The quick move of Psy Wave literally does 1 damage as it is triple resisted. I wasn't sure that a foul play would be lethal, so I play it safe and fire off the superpower, looking to remove them from the field of play. I do exactly that. The opponent sends out Primeape and I pivot into Galarian Weezing. Of course, you never shield the first move, as if they go for Rage Fist, subsequent ones after that will do more as it comes with a 100% chance to vamp up their attack. This opponent goes for the Ice Punch that does do slightly more. We fire off the Sludge, picking up the knockout, back out comes their own Galarian Weezing. They farm up, lose CMP, the opponent recognise the game's over, tank the move, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras this time in the lead position. You can see the opponent applying very little fast move pressure again. Am I going to bait? Nah, superpower right off the bat, nearly picks up that one hit KO, and out comes Clodsire. I'm going to bank a bucket load of energy before sending Diggersby into the arena to do what it does best and tank multiple charge moves. If truth be told, I did try my luck at catching a Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, the catch wasn't successful, but it don't really matter as Diggersby is so dominant into Clodsire. This time the attack drop does come through, which means this next Earthquake is going to do nowhere near enough to knock out. Diggersby able to withstand the damage, the opponent pivots into their own Malamar. I go for a Fire Punch bait, thinking the opponent's got a shield. They actually don't shield, but regardless, we're in a great position. I send out Galarian Weezing. We've seen this matchup play out from the other side. I've got 2 shields. I'm going to shield 1 foul play. Foul play is survivable, but ideally we want to get the opponents completely dump their energy, and my own Malamar of energy in the back should clean up. The opponent is able to win the charge attack priority, but this move doesn't knock out and they are now energy dry. We tank the damage, fire off the Sludge. Sludge of course should force the final Protect Shield, and the opponent isn't going to leave with a charge move. I'm going to send out my own Malamar. The opponent tries to make a catch onto Clodsire unsuccessfully. We Psy Wave farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Drapion in the lead position. Drapion somewhat of an issue for the team. Shadow Diggersby doesn't even do particularly well into it. I've got a high rank one. We just about survived 2 Aqua Tails. If you run a pretty scuffed IV Diggersby, 2 Aqua Tails with the poison things will probably knock you out. Again, we superpower right off the bat. The opponent throws the Aqua Tail, hoping Aqua Tail with a debuff defense would knock out. We're able to land the next superpower, which is debuff, still rocking them low, and I send out Galarian Weezing. The opponent run an Aqua Tail and Sludge Bomb. Out comes their own Malamar. I commit to the overheat. I don't get there. Absolute potato play, and I am going to concede the match. Did I not tell you that I did play somewhat like a potato in some of these matches? GG's to that opponent. I see a lot of people in comment sections of content creators' videos say people only post their wins. Of course, in that matchup, if I would have just threw the Sludge, I think him in a great position. That was likely a poison double dark team with Sableye in the back, so Diggersby up a Protect Shield would have been in the driver's seat. However, I didn't do that. I lost. It is what it is. You can probably play better than me if you see that same team. Heading into the next battle, we see Metachan in the lead position. Nice to catch it here as my big fat bunny doesn't want to see it. We're able to force ourselves an early shield advantage, and the opponent does still need a dynamic punch. Ice Punch won't cut it, and the Psy Waves are triple resisted. The opponent throw the Ice Punch, then make a very nice catch, catching onto Furret. We've got a very hard check for this in the form of Galarian Weezing. To my surprise, the opponent invests their own Protect Shield. We send out Galarian Weezing, the opponent doesn't want the smoke, and they concede the match. So despite these battles being like 28, 29/3000 ELO, you can see that both me and my opponents do make misplays. Heading into the next battle, we see Clodsire in the lead position. A fantastic lead for Malamar. I've seen so many people hyping up running really obscure, like 15-9-0, I think Jonkus run, trying to get Psy Wave breakpoints. I've personally gone for a PvP IV spread. I've got 3-15-10. I think it's like a rank 82 or something, and it does perform phenomenally well. I think if I was running a super attack weighted one, I don't reach this foul play, but as I've got a PvP IV spread, we're able to fire off the foul play, forcing a Protect Shield, and rather than concede a farm down, I send out Galarian Weezing. I'm going to shield at the first Aqua Jet. We do survive one, so I'm going to tank this one. I'm then going to pause it, ensuring this pod is still on my screen before looking to fire off a Sludge, removing them from the field of play. The opponent doesn't go for the catch. Sludge goes unshielded, picking up the knockout. The opponent's final Pokemon is for Alligator. We're going to fire off the Sludge. A Sludge either going to do half their health or force the final shield. The The opponent invests that Protect Shield, and here this game's over. Despite them being a water type and me being a ground type, one Hydro Cannon is survival when the opponent is never ever fast moving me down. I tank the first one just because I can, knowing the Shadow Claws are double resisted. We reach the Scorching Sands, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, once again we see Drapion in the lead position. I am looking for some redemption as I played that last Drapion matchup atrociously. This opponent goes straight for the crunch, one Psy Wave and the superpower. I think this is an easy bait. Absolutely everyone's shielded, but regardless, we go straight superpower. The opponent then makes a very nice catch, catching onto Drapion's partner in crime, Azumarill. However, Azumarill, you're in for a nasty surprise. We have one very hard check in the form of our Galarian Weezing. A non-stab Ice Beam simply isn't going to cut it. I'm going to no-shield the first, one Fairy Wind and the Sludge. Unfortunately, despite me being a Shadow Galarian Weezing, one Sludge won't put them into farm down range. I did attempt the farm down, recognise I'm not going to get it, so I throw on CMP. At this point, I've actually got an Overheat bank, so if Drapion does return, you already know I am full sending back out. Comes Drapion, does the opponent respect the damage? Overheat sneaks through the Protect Shield, picking up the knockout. The opponent sends out Furret. I reset my debuff and send out the big fat bunny. Of course, you hear me say time and time again, when a move comes with 100% chance to vamp up the opponent's attack, you shouldn't shield the first one. However, as I've got two shields, I'm just going to shield anyway, as I don't want to die thinking, why didn't I shield a charge move? We fire off the Scorching Sands, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. The opponent here goes for a swift bait, but unfortunately for my opponent, no bait will be saving their fate. Scorching Sands from a Shadow, just going to do too much. We actually get the attack drop, meaning that attack is now back to neutral. Trailblaze will pick up the knockup, but we can fast move down with either Pokemon. I send out Galarian Weezing, Fairy Wind farm down, and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the Malamar Mirror. So I guess in this matchup, the Pokemon with the highest attack will be in the best position as you're able to win charge attack priority. We both heavily overfarm, end up throwing on CMP, and it becomes apparent that I have the higher attack. So now we know that I win CMP in all even shielding scenarios. I should be able to win this matchup. I go straight for the next foul play. Looking to pick up the knockout, the opponent actually invested Protect Shield. Of course, I could match Protect Shield and look to once again win charge attack priority. However, I'm happy with my shield advantage. I'm actually going to send out Galarian Weezing, known with a nuke like Overheat. With the opponent only with one Protect Shield, I've got a very good chance of landing that big Hail Mary on something. Unfortunately, unable to Fairy Wind farm down before the next foul play, so I'm going to give up my Protect Shield back, and I'm going to exit at like almost double Sludge or Overheat and some change. Let's see what comes out. The opponent taking an eternity to send something out. Out comes Corviknight, and you better believe we're full sending Overheat. Almost picks up the one shot. We send out Diggersby, and out comes Drapion. So as I said previously, two Aqua Tails, Shadow and Shadow Crime, come quite close to knocking out with the Poison Stings. You can see I'm now approaching the yellow health. I throw on CMP, and I am full sending. I think here an argument could be made to bait, but of course I don't know whether the opponent's going to look to call it. We full send the Scorching Sands, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. And at this point, we're just going to settle for the Fire Punch to get off any chip damage we physically can. And this game is going to get super close. The opponent overfarmed, but they are not doubled up. Aqua Tail, unfortunately, is going to remove me from the field of play. And we need to be careful the opponent doesn't make a catch. We pause a turn, ensuring the Sludge lands on its intended target. Is the opponent low enough that we can Fairy Wind farm them down before they Sand Attack farm me down? Yes, they are. And we take an incredibly close game. Heading into the next battle, we are running it back. Looks like my opponent might have actually got one turn lag there, which is kind of unfortunate for them. They're going to fire off the foul play first. The opponent then tried to catch onto Big Man Blastoise. And you know what? I'm actually more than happy to stay in, at least for the time being, looking to force a Protect Shield. We're going to overfarm, fire off the next foul play. You can see that this foul play will actually be lethal, and the opponent actually completely sacked Big Man Blastoise. If the opponent send out their own Malamar, of course, they're going to have to throw a charge move there. Never, ever Sideway farm me down. Out comes Tinkaton. I'm going to instantly Superpower, minimising the farm the opponent gets. Superpower, despite not getting the same type of attack bonus, actually rocks them below the half health range. I actually threw that Superpower on alignment, but that's actually good for me, because it means I take the Fairy Wind with minus defense, meaning they do get minimal farm. We send out the big fat bunny, the opponent pivots into Malamar, and I send out Galarian Weezing. I've already decided that I'm saving all my shields for the big fat bunny. I was hoping I can reach double Sludge, but unfortunately that isn't going to be the case. But the Fairy Winds are going to put them very close to Fire Punch range with the residual quick attacks. This is almost certainly a foul play bait, but I'm just going to double shield here regardless. I'm going to fire off this Fire Punch just before the opponent reaches their next charge move, and they are now in Fire Punch range. The opponent then pivots out into Tinkaton, and here I think they make a huge mistake. They go for a Bulldoze, which gives me a very easy win con. Tank the Bulldoze, farm up, 2 double Fire Punch, you know the drill. 1 Fire Punch will be moving this Tink from the field of play, and when Malamar does return, it's very quickly about to meet the same fate with Diggersby cleaning up. GG's, and thanks for playing. And in my book, that is the Malamar Galarian Weezing Core 1, Malamar Tinkaton Core 0. Heading into the next battle, awful lead. We're going to say switch into the Big Fat Bunny. Of course, the opponent does have access to Icy Wind, but I am going to fire off a Scorching Sands first. Scorching Sands not only forces a Protect Shield, but also gets the attack drop. That attack drop means this Icy Wind is an easy tank for me. The opponent then pivots out into Lapras, and this works out perfectly. We managed to bait this thing out, so Galarian Weezing doesn't have to see it. Diggersby goes 2 for 2 on attack drops. We're not able to reach the Scorching Sands, only a Fire Punch, but all chip damage is always going to be welcome. As we lowered their attack, I'm confident now I survive any one move, even if it's something like a Skull Bash. Skull Bash won't put me into sideway farm down range. We tank the Spark and Aurea, throw the Foul Play on what looks like to be a charge attack priority, and to my surprise, the opponent invests that Protect Shield. I've got 2, I am going to shield 1, and the opponent actually full send on Ice Beam as it does do more. We're going to throw the Foul Play, looking to move Lapras from the field of play, and it is G-Weezy time. Foul Play picks up the knockout, and I am spamming the switch. Out comes Big Man Blastoise. G-Weezy gonna farm up. This time I get my charge move timing absolutely on point. We're now doubled up. The first sludge rocks the opponent below half health. The second sludge is going to move them from the field of play on the charge attack priority. Get that Blastoise off my screen. Out comes the Marshmallow. The opponent doesn't want the smoke, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Jumpluff in the lead position. To my surprise, the opponent goes straight Aerial Ace, recognising I'm probably going to tank this move, and they probably just want to get off any chip damage they can. I'm going to throw the Foul Play. You can see Foul Play, Shadow and Shadow Crime does so much damage. I'm then going to farm up and look to catch the next Aerial Ace onto the Damage Sponge, aka the Big Fat Bunny. Aerial Ace literally does nothing, and once again we managed to bait out Lapras, so far so good. We're going to go straight for the Scorching Sands, and once again fishing for that 30% chance of the attack drop, which this time we're unable to get. The opponent heavily overfarmed before picking up a knockout with the Sparkling Aurea. They're actually going to be able to outpace my Malamar as well, and this kind of puts me in a tricky spot. Galarian Weezing would just take too much damage here, so I'm going to invest the Protect Shield. The opponent fire off the Sparkling Aurea. I'm going to overfarm. The opponent tries to make a catch onto Jumpluff. And I was thinking, this is only an Aerial Ace, they're one off. I miscount and we get Acrobatics to the face, which is awful for me. I'm able to fully Fairy Wind farm down, but both my Pokemon have literally no HP. Back out comes Lapras, we fire off the Sludge. Sludge goes unshielded, and out comes Drapion. Once again, we're full sending. I think my Wincon has landed this overheat. The opponent doesn't respect the damage, and somehow we're able to take that game with the opponent very strangely reverse 2 shield flexing. GG's to that opponent. I don't know if it's a glitch. I think often when people switch out a Pokemon, you don't see their first quick move. So I didn't actually count 1 Fairy Wind, hence I got myself in such an awful spot. In the next battle, we see Claydol on the lead. A nice lead for me, but a problematic say switch. We're able to force a Protect Shield with the Superpower, which means I'm now comfortable switching in Diggersby, as the opponent's already down 1 Protect Shield. I'm going to tank 1 Aqua Tail, go straight for the Scorching Sands. Surely the opponent doesn't 2 shield right. The opponent desperate to flip alignment. As I'm opting for Overheat over Brutal Swing, I can't align G-Weezy with Claydol, so I'm kind of forced to start shielding here. The opponent then gives up switch, sending out Claydol. Claydol going to be greeted with the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands does around 35 or 40%. With the quick attacks, it pretty much 2 shots. The opponent farm up, play 2 CMP. Even a Rock Tomb from this range will pick up the knockout. However, as the opponent dump their energy, I'm able to send back out Malamar, reach the Foul Play on the charge attack priority, and Foul Play will pick up the knockout. Drapion is still alive and is still quite healthy as well. If Drapion does return, they're going to be forced to dump energy before the superpowers reach, and the opponent does exactly that. And in G-Weezy, I believe. We're going to trust in G-Weezy to clean up. G-Weezy hits the field of play. The opponent going to stay in, chip me with an Aqua Tail. I don't know what's in the back, so I'm willing to tank this move. However, is that a mistake? The opponent sends out Lapras, and I'm going to need near perfect energy management to win this game. I'm going to fire off the Sludge. Sludge into Overheat. Will pick up the knockout. I overfarm as much as I physically dare. try not overfarm and put myself in a range where I can't get Poison Stung farm down. Back out comes Drapion. The opponent looks to the Poison Sting farm down. They don't get it. Weezy absolutely popping off, and we take that game. At this point, we're at 2,966 elo. I think we're either 2-0 or 3-0 in the set. We see Drapion on the lead, so here we should always tank the first move for a 1 Sire Wave and either the Super Power or the bait. I end up over tapping. I blame the game there, as I did try and throw 1 on the move. We go for the foul play bait, recognising all Drapions have shielded to this point. The opponent then catch on Mandibars. Things are looking great. Super Power does some very nice chip damage. I send out Galarian Weezing. As the opponent is running Snarl, this is such a commanding matchup. Aerial Ace is a pretty garbage move. They definitely look like Aerial Ass when they come from Mandibars. I fire off 1 Fairy Wind and the Sludge. At this point, I looked at the health and think I can probably Fairy Wind farm down before the third Aerial Ace is reached. The opponent fires off the second. However, that is such a miscalculation. I think I should throw 1 and the move. I look for the Fairy Wind farm down. The opponent survives on invisible HP and I'm thinking I survive this move. I don't. And Jamie Finn is having an absolute mare, trying to stall the Legend run. I end up dying with 100 energy, so there I of course could have thrown the move after 1. I could have CMP tied or either considered shielding. I do none of them. The opponent chipped me with an Aqua Tail and then send out a Azumarill. This almost looks like a loss, however we're able to get the Scorching Sands debuff the first time and force the opponent's final Protect Shield. Of course, when you're at 2,966 elo, trying to hit Legend, you are going to play it out. We go 2 for 2 on attack drops. The opponent throw a charge move. Here I'm going to throw 1 and the move. The opponent now receiving energy for the next Ice Beam. Logically, the opponent's going to 1 and throw right. They actually instant throw, so I could have made a catch. I'm unsuccessful on my catch. The opponent here likely try and snipe me. I see Drapion come in. We're able to catch back on Malamar. However, I think it's simply too little too late. So if you rewind against the Mandibars, you can see I could have done numerous things better in this battle. Once again, we keep our losses in. We like to be educational as well as have some fun on the channel. Unfortunately, this one was an absolutely atrociously played by me, and we are going to take a loss. GG's that opponent. We are now 3-1 in the set at 2,966 elo. So if we win this battle, we hit Legend. If we lose, we have to do another set. We see Gliscopod in the lead. The opponent save switches into Sableye. So logically, the only reason they'd switch out is if they're on an ABB team trying to bait out my best Dark type counter. We go for some chip and dip and send out the Big Fat Bunny. The Big Fat Bunny is good into this matchup, and I'm also safe in the knowledge that my best Dark type counter is lurking in the back. We tank both foul plays, throw 4 quick attacks and the Fire Punch, which is 1 quick move before they reach the next foul play. The opponent desperate to realign, and this certainly works for me. I'm not going to fight for switch, I'm just going to send out Weezy, fully Fairy Wind farm down. The opponent already down 1 protection. The question then becomes, are they willing to respect the overheat? Back out comes Gliscopod. I full send the overheat. Does the opponent respect the damage? Bang! There it is. Shout out the GOAT, Oxford U for that quote. There's the second Dark type. I'm just going to send up Malamar. All we need to do is land 1 superpower. The first superpower, if it goes unshielded, going to do a very solid chunk. The opponent shields the first, as it does do more. The second, certainly going to do enough to put them into sludge range. Jamie Finn landing that Hail Mary is going to make me a legend in Season 22. The opponent full send the Brave Bird. Me looking to shield flex is their win con. The opponent then concede the match and we take that game. What can I say about Shadow Malamar? I think it's a great pick, but I think the MVP certainly was Galarian Weezing. The pair of them two together was just phenomenal. You saw me throw a few matches in this thing, so despite me going 15-5, it definitely should have been a 5-0 to Legend. So if you want to run this team, play better than me and you'll have even more success. If you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you'd like your battles featured on my channel. The link to our battle submission form is down below, and I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.